Welcome to Nice and Blunt. These are my Week 3 half PPR wide receiver rankings. No surprise at number 1, it's Davante Adams, and he has a pretty good matchup against San Francisco in prime time on Sunday night. And if San Francisco's defense has one weakness, it is the secondary. At number 2, I have DeAndre Hopkins going up against Jacksonville, and I love this matchup. Jacksonville's defense is atrocious, especially in the secondary, and Kyler Murray is lights out at the moment. So DeAndre Hopkins, his number 1 option, is going to have a great game. That's why I have him as my number 2 wide receiver this week. At number 3, I have Stephon Diggs, and he's kind of had 2 straight down games, and this defense in Washington, it's not necessarily a great matchup, but we saw last week that they can be had through the air. So that's why I like Stephon Diggs to have a breakout game this season. It feels like he's been contained for too long, and it's only inevitable for him to have a big blow-up game. So that's why I have him as my number 3 wide receiver. And at number 4 is Tyreek Hill. And normally he's at number 2, but this is going to be a tough matchup against the Chargers. I think Derwin James is going to provide some double teams on Tyreek Hill. And even though he's obviously a top 5 option every week, it's just a slight downgrade for him. That's why I have him at number 4. And at number 5, a player that you could almost argue it looks like a better deep threat than Tyreek Hill at the moment. Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks going up against Minnesota, who hasn't been able to stop anyone. They've given up 30 points back-to-back weeks against Cincinnati and Arizona. So Tyler Lockett, again, is primed for a really big game. He feels like a lock to catch at least one 50-yard reception every single game. So that's why I have Tyler Lockett at number 5 as my number 1 Seahawks wide receiver above DK Metcalf. At number 6, another player who you just can't disrespect any longer. I have him at number 6 this week. It's Cooper Kupp versus Tampa Bay, and this matchup is going to turn into a shootout. So I think Cooper Kupp is going to get a lot of targets in this game, like usual, and he's been basically as unguardable as Tyler Lockett has. So I think they're both clear top 10 options, and I have Cooper Kupp at number 6 this week. At number 7 is Keenan Allen going up against Kansas City, and normally I have Keenan Allen inside the top 5. However, even though there's a lot of shootout potential in this game, Kansas City's defense is surprisingly good at limiting number 1 opposing wide receivers. So this week, that's Keenan Allen, and that's why it's just a slight downgrade. I have him at number 7, but normally I have him in my top 5. At number 8 is A.J. Brown versus Indianapolis. And if Xavier Rhodes still is not playing, then A.J. Brown is going to have a pretty good time. But he's pretty much a very safe bet to score a touchdown every single week. So that's why A.J. Brown is always going to be inside my top 10. I have him at number 8, where I had him to start the year. At number 9, I have DK Metcalf at Minnesota. And even though he is my number 2 wide receiver of the Seahawks this week, the upside for DK is through the roof. And he is nursing a bit of an injury at the moment. However, he's definitely going to remain inside my top 10. Minnesota's defense has not been playing very well so far this year, so that's why I think him and Tyler Lockett are clear top 10 options at the wide receiver position this week. And then in the same game, I have Justin Jefferson going up against Seattle secondary, which doesn't scare you either. However, the emergence of KJ Osborne is a little bit concerning, but not concerning enough for me to downgrade Justin Jefferson outside my top 10. This is a good matchup, and he is still the number 1 wide receiver in Minnesota. At number 11 is where you can start to raise your eyebrow a little bit at the matchup. I've got Terry McLaurin at Buffalo, who's going to be covered by Tre'Davious White in this game. Not easy coverage. However, he went up against James Bradbury last week and put up a huge stat line. So I'm not worried about Terry McLaurin. He's almost matchup proof, but this matchup is difficult, so a slight downgrade. I have him at number 11. Number 12 is CeeDee Lamb going up against Philadelphia, and the targets are going to be there for CeeDee Lamb, so the volume keeps him inside the top 15. However, Philly's secondary is pretty scary, to be honest with you. He's going to get either Darius Slay coverage, or he'll be covered by Steven Nelson. So both of these corners are really good, and it's definitely going to be a tougher task for CeeDee Lamb. However, the volume is going to carry him. I definitely trust CeeDee Lamb. You're not going to bench him. I have him at number 12. And at number 13, I have Chris Godwin going up against the Rams. And I have a feeling that he's not going to see the bulk of the Jalen Ramsey coverage. I think that's going to be on Mike Evans for the most part. And that's why I think Chris Godwin is going to be the receiver that you want from Tampa Bay in this game. There's a lot of shootout potential in this matchup, and Tom Brady is on fire. So Chris Godwin is full go, and that's why I have him at number 13 in my rankings. The matchup doesn't scare me that much. At number 14, I have Calvin Ridley at the Giants, and this may feel a little bit low to you. Calvin Ridley is normally inside the top 10, but I gotta be honest with you, I am worried about this offense with Matt Ryan. They are not very good at converting in the red zone, and this matchup for Calvin Ridley is not good. He's facing James Bradbury, a clear top 10 corner in the NFL, and that's why I think Calvin Ridley is going to have a lower ceiling in this game. I think it's going to be difficult for him to score a touchdown, and that's why I think he's more of a floor play this week. But I trust his talent so much, I can't rank him outside the top 15. That's why I have him at number 14. And then another player who I trust enough to have to respect in my rankings, however, I was a little worried about what I saw last week. Only 4 targets for Allen Robinson in week 2, and Justin Fields is the new clear starting quarterback in Chicago. So it may take a little bit for that rapport to be fully developed, and that's why I am just a little concerned about Allen Robinson this week. I only have him at number 15, but normally I have him closer to 10. However, Allen Robinson will finish the year with his normal target pace, about 150 on the season, so I'm not worried about Allen Robinson long term. It's just a slight downgrade until we can fully trust his chemistry with Justin Fields. At number 16, I have Courtland Sutton, who has a great matchup against the Jets, and last week he saw 9 receptions. He went over 150 yards receiving, and as long as Jerry Jeudy is not on the field, Courtland Sutton is the number 1 in Denver, and Teddy Bridgewater pushes the ball down the field. He doesn't turn it over, so I think there's a lot of scoring potential for Courtland Sutton in this game, and at the very least, he offers a very high floor inside the top 20 at wide receiver. I like his volume a lot, so I think Courtland Sutton is a very high upside wide receiver option. That's why I have him at number 16. Another player with a lot of upside, DJ Moore at Houston, who caught a touchdown last week. That's kind of a rare thing for him. So I'm a little concerned that he doesn't score a touchdown this week. However, the floor for DJ Moore is always high. He looks like the clear number 1 target for Sam Darnold, and he's pretty much guaranteed to finish every game with about 4 or 5 receptions for 80 yards or so. So that's why the floor for DJ Moore is very high, and there's always scoring potential. So that's why I like his upside. I have him at number 17 in my rankings this week. At number 18, I have Amari Cooper versus Philly, who is nursing a rib injury, and every time he hits the ground when he makes a catch, he looks like he's in pain. So even though it looks like he is going to suit up, I don't think they want to funnel him as many targets as possible, and that's why I'm just a little bit down on Amari Cooper. This is a tough matchup against Philadelphia. However, the volume of passes in Dallas is high enough to keep him inside my top 20. I got to respect the fantasy goldmine that is the Dallas Cowboys. At number 19, I have T. Higgins, who looks like the clear number 1 wide receiver for Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, and he's going to offer a very solid floor that's consistent every single week. He was a little bit banged up in last week's game, but it looks like he's a full go. He's going to be safe to play in this game, and Pittsburgh's secondary isn't the scariest part of this defense, so that's why I like him inside the top 20, and he looks to be a go-to option in the red zone. I like T. Higgins' shot at a touchdown quite a bit. At number 20, I have Adam Thielen going up against Seattle, and he's the number 1 option in the end zone for Kirk Cousins. Their rapport is really good. There's always the potential that he scores a touchdown. However, the yardage for Adam Thielen isn't really off the charts, and that's why I think his ceiling is a little bit limited. However, I do trust him as a top 20 wide receiver in what I expect to be a bit of a shootout. I think Minnesota is going to need to put up a lot of points on the board in order to compete. At number 21, I have Robert Woods going up against Tampa Bay, who was more involved last week than he was in week 1. And against Tampa Bay, they're really going to need to put up a lot of points. So that's why I still trust the floor for Robert Woods. However, Cooper Kupp is really distinguishing himself as the clear number 1 option for Matthew Stafford. And that's why I'm just a little bit down on Robert Woods, but I still trust his floor. I have him at number 21. This is a good matchup for him. I still trust Bobby Trees. At number 22, Mike Evans versus Atlanta. And this is who I think Jalen Ramsey will spend the bulk of his time covering in the secondary. I'm a little concerned that if Mike Evans doesn't score a touchdown, he is not a very safe fantasy option, but he seems to be, but he has a really good rapport with Tom Brady, especially in the red zone, so the upside is always there for Mike Evans, and Tampa Bay is going to put up a lot of points in this game, so I still trust him inside my top 25, but I am a little bit worried about this matchup. Jalen Ramsey is not easy to play against. At number 23, I have Deontay Johnson, and this situation is worth monitoring. He got banged up at the very end on the last play of Week 2's loss to Las Vegas, and even if he does suit up, there is a chance that Ben Roethlisberger doesn't play. So if Mason Rudolph is the quarterback, then that's a big downgrade for Deontay Johnson. However, as long as he plays, he will see the most targets in Pittsburgh. So that's why I trust him inside the top 25. The volume is there, and the floor is pretty high. So DJ is my wide receiver 23 this week. And as long as he plays, it's tough to bench him. So just monitor his status, make sure he plays. But if he does, Cincinnati's defense doesn't scare you, and he will get enough targets to be a viable wide receiver 2. However, the upside is low in this offense. At number 24, I have Sterling Shepard of the Giants going up against Atlanta. This is a great matchup. Atlanta's defense has not been able to stop anybody, and Sterling Shepard has the best rapport with Daniel Jones. He looks to be the clear number 1 option in New York, and that's why I think he is a high upside play inside the top 25 for sure. I'm just a little worried that he may not score a touchdown, and that's why I can't put him inside my top 20, but definitely a high upside play this week. At number 25, I have Deebo Samuel, and I want to put him higher than this. The upside is definitely there. However, going up against Green Bay, he's going to be the main focus of Jair Alexander, one of the best corners in the league. So a big downgrade for Deebo Samuel. However, as the number 1 in San Francisco, you still trust the upside and the floor is still decent. So that's why I can't rank him outside the top 25. But this week is a little bit of a downgrade. Your expectations should be lowered for Deebo Samuel this week. At number 26, I got Mike Williams, and his rapport with Justin Herbert is electric, and I think Keenan Allen is going to be limited a little bit, so Justin Herbert will target Mike Williams quite often in this game. He's probably going to see another 8 targets or so, and Mike Williams is a good deep threat. He's always a threat in the red zone, and that's why I like him as a very high upside flex play. I would feel pretty confident about plugging him in to my lineup this week. At number 27, I got Rondale Moore, and maybe you think I'm a little biased because I have been hyping him up all off season and he is on my team. However, this matchup against Jacksonville is so good. Kyler Murray is already the best quarterback in fantasy, but this matchup is so juicy. I want a piece of it anywhere I can get, and I think Rondale Moore is starting to establish himself as the number 2 option in the receiving game for Kyler Murray. So I really like his upside, and I think a very decent floor. He almost scored in back-to-back weeks. He failed to catch a pass in the end zone in week 1, and I think his targets are really reliable. I love Rondale Moore as a clear top 30 option this week. Fuck yeah. At number 28, I got Chase Claypool, and if Deontay Johnson does sit, then Chase Claypool will rise in the ranks for me. However, the threat of Mason Rudolph starting is a big red flag. So even though this is a good matchup, I can't rank Chase Claypool outside my top 30. However, I don't think I can put him any higher than this. I am a little bit worried about the upside of this offense. Even if Ben Roethlisberger suits up, I don't really love the upside that much, but Chase Claypool is a threat in the red zone every week, so that's why I do trust him inside the top 30. At number 29, I got Michael Pittman at Tennessee, and this is a really good matchup. He saw 12 targets last week, and it feels like every time I trust Michael Pittman, he lets me down. And every time I'm not expecting anything from him, he has a lights out game. So he comes with risk, and it's only been one good game this season, so I'm not fully ready to trust him. But this matchup just looks so good. I think he does have a lot of upside, and that's why I have him at number 29. At number 30, a player who can catch a deep pass for a touchdown and score from just about anywhere on the field, Jamar Chase going up against Pittsburgh. And I do think that the Bengals are going to be very competitive in this game. I actually picked them to win no matter who is the quarterback for Pittsburgh, and that's why I think Jamar Chase offers a pretty decent floor and a lot of upside as well. That's why I have him at number 30. At number 31, we're starting to enter more riskier flex territory, but I think the floor for Brandon Cooks is there versus Carolina. Even though Davis Mills is the quarterback, I think there's going to be some garbage time available, and the first half is going to be ugly, so I don't really trust Brandon Cooks that much. However, I think the volume will keep him in play, and that's why I rank him at number 31. Got to respect the number 1 option in Houston. At number 32, I got Julio Jones versus Indianapolis, and this is not an easy matchup, and Julio Jones' volume just isn't really there. The Titans leaned very heavily on Derrick Henry last week, and while I don't think they're going to give him another 35 carries, I do think that Julio Jones is going to be limited in the target category. So that's why I'm not too excited about his upside. I only have him at number 32 this week. Ryan Tannehill has only thrown 1 touchdown, and if it's going to go to anyone, it's going to go to A.J. Brown first. So that's why I'm a little bit worried about Julio Jones. I only have him at number 32 in week 3. At number 33, Corey Davis at Denver, and he's the number 1 target for Zach Wilson. However, Denver's defense is really difficult, especially their secondary. So I think Zach Wilson's going to struggle, and you're banking on the garbage time with Corey Davis. But that's kind of the deal every single week, so nothing new for him. However, the upside is a bit capped. This is a tough matchup, so that's why I only have him at number 33. Normally, he's inside my top 30. At number 34, Antonio Brown at the Rams, and he is a deep threat option. He can score from anywhere on the field, and it feels like Tom Brady really likes to funnel him targets. So that's why it's hard for me to rank him outside the top 35. However, he is the number 3 option on this team, so it's not like he's going to get the most targets of anyone. However, this is going to be a bit of a shootout of a game, so I think Antonio Brown's upside is still there, and that's why I like him as a pretty decent flex option still. At number 35, I have OBJ, and it's not definitive that he's going to play in this game. However, it's looking good, and Jarvis Landry did go on short-term IR. So if he plays, he's going to get the majority of the targets, the clear number one. And Chicago's defense is not as good as it used to be, so it doesn't really scare you. And this is a pretty decent matchup. However, Baker Mayfield is not a quarterback that throws the ball a lot, so the upside is a little bit limited. However, OBJ can break off a massive play from anywhere on the field, so I do respect him enough to keep him in flex consideration. However, I'm a little concerned that he's not 100%, and there is a chance that he does not play in this game, so that's why I only have him at number 35. At number 36, Zach Pascal of Indianapolis going up against Tennessee, and he's the threat in the red zone, especially him and Carson Wentz have a very good rapport in the end zone so far. He scored 3 touchdowns in 2 games, and as long as Carson Wentz suits up, I think he has a chance to score again, so I like his upside, but I'm a little bit worried about the floor. He's seen 13 targets through 2 games, so less than Michael Pittman, and that's why I have him as the number 2 option in Indianapolis. But this matchup is good. The upside is there for Zach Pascal. At number 37, I have Bryan Edwards, who I think is the number 1 receiver for Derek Carr. He had a touchdown called back last week, so his stat line could have looked a lot better, and I think that he is a pretty safe option for him. Derek Carr has thrown the most passing yards among all quarterbacks so far, so the floor is pretty high for Bryan Edwards. I'm just a little bit worried that if he doesn't score a touchdown, he may not score more than 10 points. Another player I'm a little bit worried won't score more than 10 points without a touchdown, Robbie Anderson at Houston, and I don't think Sam Darnold's going to need to throw a lot to win this game, so that's why I'm a little bit worried about the upside for Robbie Anderson. At number 39, I have Tyler Boyd, the 3rd option in Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. And I kind of want to put him higher than this. However, I still don't fully trust him yet. He saw a lot more targets last week than he did in week 1. And historically, the weakness for Pittsburgh's secondary has been in the slot. So it's possible that Tyler Boyd pays off much higher than this at the end of the game. However, he's still the 3rd option, I think, for Joe Burrow. And that's why the upside is a little bit limited. I think it's going to be hard for him to score a lot of touchdowns this year. So that's why I'm a little bit down on Tyler Boyd's upside. But a decent floor. There's definitely a lot of worse flex options out there. And then at number 40, I have Laviska Shenault of the Jaguars going up against Arizona. And there's going to be a lot of garbage time in this game. However, Laviska is nursing a bit of an injury. He got banged up last week. However, according to Urban Meyer, he looks to be okay. But you're really banking on the garbage time, and I'm a little concerned about this Jaguars offense as a whole. The Arizona defense is pretty good, especially at getting pressure on the quarterback. So I think Trevor Lawrence may struggle in this game, and I don't really want to count on garbage time from the Jags too much. And then outside the top 40, you got to be kind of desperate to play any of these guys, but Jalen Waddle is still the number 1 wide receiver in Las Vegas. However, Will Fuller will be making his return, so that's why I'm a little bit down on Jalen Waddle, especially if Jacoby Brissett is the quarterback. His rapport with him is not as good as his with Tua, so that's why I only have Jalen Waddle at number 41. Number 42, Cole Beasley, who looks to be the number 2 option for Josh Allen. And against Washington, it's possible Stephon Diggs is covered very well on a few plays, so Cole Beasley will get some targets, but very low touchdown upside for Cole Beasley. More of a desperate flex play if you have to start him. At number 43, Christian Kirk at Jacksonville, and the matchup is juicy. There's a lot of upside here. Christian Kirk can score a deep pass. However, I think Rondale Moore is the guy that you want, and that's why I have Christian Kirk down at number 43. Number 44, Darnell Mooney saw 8 targets last week, led all Chicago Bears wide receivers in targets. So I think there is some upside for Darnell Mooney. However, I'm not fully ready to trust this offense with Justin Fields. I think he's going to funnel more targets to Allen Robinson. And Darnell Mooney is the deep threat, so those passes are a bit more difficult to come down with, and that's why I only have him at number 45. Will Fuller, definitely interesting, a deep threat always. KJ Osborne, also another interesting deep threat. And Brandon Ayuk, I still have a bit of faith in him, but we haven't seen enough to fully trust him. There's more and more injuries in this backfield, and as they start to rack up, that means Brandon Ayuk will be more involved. He may see some manufactured carries this week. Possibly at least one jet sweep will be called for him in this game. And I think as the season goes on, he's going to get more and more involved. So I'm not ready to trust him yet, but I'm not ready to drop him either. I have him at number 47. Marquez Callaway got a tough matchup against New England. I'm not excited about it at all. Nelson Aguilar in the same game. Low upside with Mac Jones at quarterback. Very few touchdowns for the New England passing attack. And then Marvin Jones versus Arizona. Another Jacksonville receiver who you're counting on garbage time for, but there is some upside with Marvin Jones. Arizona's secondary doesn't really scare you. So those are the flex plays that I would consider. And if there's a player on your roster that you're considering, go ahead and leave me a comment if you have a question about him down below. I'll leave all of these rankings up through the end of the video so you can take a good look at it and look for all of your specific players. But if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more content. My name is Adam Riancho, and thank you for watching Nice and Blunt.